The People's Platform.
Good evening and welcome to the People's Platform. My guest tonight is Mr. Kaushalya Nawaratne, President's Counsel. Good evening and welcome to you.
Good evening.
This is your first interview since being appointed as President's Counsel. Congratulations, first of all, on your appointment.
Thank you very much. I consider it to be an honor and a privilege to be here.
Absolutely wonderful to have you here. Let's talk a bit about the rule of law in Sri Lanka. We are emerging out of an economic crisis. We're in an IMF supported program at the moment. We're heading in for presidential elections, a general election, possibly provincial council, local government elections. We don't know that. How important is it for the government, for the state, to ensure that the rights of the people are upheld, that the right to dissent is not curbed unnecessarily?
I think you nailed it right at the start and at the inception, prior to making any further, to elaborate what we are going to discuss. The rule of law and the right to dissent is one of the fundamental important matters which has to be kind of guaranteed, and the safety of the people to kind of to dissent, express their dissent vis-a-vis the government is something which has to be safeguarded at any cost, especially when it comes to the rule of law and the maintenance of democracy. Any democratic society, these are fundamental nitty-gritties, if I would say, that has to be safeguarded. So when it comes to the legal professionals, and our duty to see to it, as you correctly pointed out, the country is coming out from a sort of a people struggle. The last year and a half, we know the difficulties that we went through, and then still it's not that we have fully recovered.
Sure. And
both politically and economically. And the year 2024 will be, as we always, all of us expect, will be the year of elections for the Sri Lankans. It could be the presidential or the parliamentary, or as you correctly said, the local government, then the provincial council, whatever. Therefore, this the rule of law and the preservation of the democratic values in our society are the fundamental need that has to be safeguarded by the stakeholders or the rulers. So therefore, that we as legal professionals always keep a very close tab and eye on the behavior of those people when it comes to these matters. That is where we perhaps may not see eye to eye with the rulers.
Mr. Nawaratne, over the recent past, we've seen multiple instances where the government has attempted to bring in laws or statutes that seek to curb the rights of the people. For example, the Anti-Terrorism Act, the Online Safety Bill, the Broadcast Regulatory Commission Bill, which did its rounds, took a break, and then is now again being discussed. There was a very interesting judgment with respect to the ICCPR Act as well, which is being used to target certain sections of people and groups. How dangerous is this, and what can the Bar Association of Sri Lanka do? You also function as its president. Speak to us about how problematic this is.
Yeah, I think that is one of the most important matters that we have to basically keep our close eye on it. But as far as the legal professionals and the legal profession and the Bar Association is concerned, especially our institution, the Bar Association is concerned, what is important for us is the public trust. And we do everything based on our public trust. If that is violated and infringed, certainly that we as legal professionals perhaps may not have a sort of a proper future. So therefore, the matters that you raised, the statutes, and in the recent past, especially the PTA, the ATA, and the Online Safety Bill and the Broadcast Regulatory, the bills that were to be introduced to our legal system at the inception.
Right.
And you would have seen over and over again the Bar Association raised this concern. In fact, we went to courts and we challenged these bills when it was placed in the older paper of the Parliament, and we felt and we found that if those bills were brought in the manner in which was proposed at the inception, that would have had a real bad impact on the entire society, as you correctly said. and these the bills were to be brought in on the pretext that which would at least serve the needs of the people, whereas in fact if you really analyze it, those provisions could be used in order to how shall I say, attack the freedom or the curtail of the freedom of the people,
right.
and especially the people who express their dissent. And that is why the bar association, we say that there is an inalienable sort of a duty on the part of the bar association to raise these issues with all the stakeholders, because we always say and for instance when it comes to the anti-terrorism the bills or a statute, we don't advocate there should not be any the law with regard to curtailing of terrorism, because we are a country which battled at over 30 years with terrorism. Rightly or wrongly, people have various opinions on that, but we say there must be a statute, but a statute or the law should not be a law which could be used by the governors to suppress the opinions of the people. That is where we don't kind of agree with the governors. Now if you look at it, that is why we challenge it in the Supreme Court, and many programs are conducted, and at least 2 awareness programs are conducted. We are thankful to media institutions like y'all for taking our voice to the people, and because of the pressure and original context of the bill was withdrawn, and now they are just trying to bring it back. Certainly we will kind of look into that matter also very closely, because what we propose always, if you want to bring sort of a law in this nature, have a proper consultative processes. You consult the stakeholders, there are many people who would come forward and voluntarily kind of make their contribution, so that you can have a better and developed kind of a system or a provisions in the statute, so that there will not be any resistance.
Absolutely.
And just because our problem is this, what we see is most of the time our parliamentarians or the ministries or the ministers, and their defense is, and there is this type of law is available in A country or a B country, therefore we also must have it. And
they copy paste
and
it.
they try to copy paste.
Yeah.
And not only these important the statutes, independent statutes, if you look at a civil procedure code or a criminal procedure code, so many amendments are being brought in, or rather have been brought in, and without having a proper consultative process, and that has created so many issues. And most of the time the stakeholder, they say, in order to curb or rather avert any lost delays, and these matters are being brought in. But of course, in my personal opinion, I would say with all respect, that has caused more delays than it has not brought the expected results. So coming back to your main thrust of the question that was posed, certainly we as legal professionals, these are matters which we will take serious note, and we are not going to take it lightly. And at the same time, I want to express this opinion as well. Unlike the yesteryears, now our community, especially the legal community, and they keep a very close eye on the behaviors of the rulers, and we get ourselves updated on daily and hourly basis, so that free rights, if someone expect that they want to do, it's not something that will happen. Because here, and we are a nation, we are at crossroads where we have to do our duty in order to have a better future for our children and our nation.
You spoke about the short-sightedness of the government bringing in laws or draft bills. There is always this top-down approach where they just submit a bill and put it before they just gazette it, and then people are just supposed to read it in 2 weeks, challenge it if they want. So it's deeply disrespectful of the people and of stakeholders, and the nuances are lost. don't you think that the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, which comprises of legal professionals across the country, should mandatorily be consulted before the government brings in laws?
So that is what we have been advocating for a long period of time.
But this is not being done.
It is not being done. That is why we just, irrespective of the time constraints what we have, now, as you correctly said, Bar Association comprising of the legal professionals. When you say the legal professionals, that includes the members of the Judiciary, members of the official bar, and the members of the unofficial bar. The entire, the legal fraternity, like this is their main house, the Mahagedara of the legal professionals. So what happens? And we are not consulted. Even if we are consulted, we are consulted on a very, a small one little area. Not with regard to the entirety of the picture is not given to the Bar Association. And that is something I have been fighting for the last few months since I took over the Bar Association. So that's, and therefore that we always say, and we make representations to all the stakeholders from top to bottom, have a proper consultative process with the society. Then there are so many, and not only the Bar Association. Bar Association, certainly we will express our opinion, with our experts and our expertise. But at the same time, the civil society. And if you look at it, sometimes we challenge these the bills in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will be interested with regard to the constitutionality. And it is a very limited parameter within which their opinion would be expressed. But by and large, the impact is not something the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court jurisdiction can't be extended to such. And because the Constitution itself has recognized the area within which the constitutionality of the bill could be looked into by the Supreme Court. But it is not only the constitutionality. Sometimes the bill might be, in line with the Constitution or the constitutional provisions, but adverse effects might be more. So therefore, that is why we say have a proper consultative process with all stakeholders, so that we will have a better, vibrant sort of legal systems or a statute that can be passed by the Parliament, so that there will not be much of opposition or the resistance.
All right. We are in conversation with President's Counsel Kaushalya Nawaratne, who is also the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. We go in for a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
The People's Platform.
Inflation, exchange rates, and the rise and fall of the stock market. Bringing you insights into the business world. Watch the Business Buzz every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. on TV1.
TV1. TV for life.
CID records statements again from fake human immunoglobulin supplier. Dr. Rukshan Bellana provides a statement to the CID over medicine fraud. Petrol, diesel, LP gas are exempt from the Ports and Airport Development Levy. 18% VAT is added from next year. Kuduroshan's luxury house and car seized by police. Heavy rains batter multiple areas across Sri Lanka, leading to floods.
TV1. TV for life. The People's Platform.
Welcome to the show. We're in conversation with Mr. Kaushalya Nawaratne, President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Mr. Nawaratne, let's talk about the importance of the role of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka in guaranteeing the democratic rights of the people. Now, we spoke about several aspects concerning laws and the need for consultation. What more can be done by the Bar Association of Sri Lanka apart from issuing statements, that condemn governmental action or inaction and challenging bills? Apart from that, what more can be done?
I think a lot more are being done at the moment. Like, those are the matters that we referred to are the traditional, of course, the steps that are being done by the Bar Association. Moreover, that over consequent to the people's uprising one and a half years ago, and where the people are insisting that there must be a system change. And that when it comes to the change, when the system change, when talk of, it's not only in terms of the executive or the legislative, including the legal system as well. Otherwise, there is at least an allegation of lost delays, where the people, they always come back and say, when it comes to the litigation or the court processes, there are delays, and sometimes you have to litigate for generations. Recently, we had a sort of a lawyers function back in Matara, where one of the senior judges of the Supreme Court expressed his concern when it comes to a partition matter, any partition matter, minimum it takes 47 years, minimum 47 years from the time of filing, and then to get the final judgment. Of course, there are several, there could be many appeals to the Supreme Court and come back and so on and so forth. So this is not something which is which we can turn a kind of a blind eye, because legal profession might become irrelevant to the people, and we are here, as you correctly said, to serve the people. Why you need laws? To protect and to see to it, or to guarantee the rights of the people. If people lose their trust, confidence in the legal system, and if they feel that the legal system does not give the expected results, of course we will become irrelevant. That is something which we can't turn a kind of a blind eye. So that is why the Bar Association, as you said, we issue statements, we just challenge bills, we just as and when something happens, we issue a statement. That perhaps those traditional roles may not work in the years to come. So we might have to be a little more innovative. Yeah. And we will have, as at the inception I said, and the entire legal system works on based on the trust and the confidence of the people. If we lose, if the general public loses his trust and the confidence in the system, then of course the legal system can't survive. Any system can't survive. That is what has happened to our the executive as well as to the parliamentary system. People, they don't have much of sort of hope, and they do not know, and whatever they say like, look, and that is not to the best interest of the people. So therefore BSL will step out from their traditional roles, and we will have a more citizen friendly approach in the coming years, in order to protect the rights of the people. And the rights of the people, when you say, it's your rights and my rights as well, and that will include the rights of, as I said, members of the judiciary, and as well as the official and the non-official bar. So it is for the entire the society citizenry ship that we have to basically have a better approach. So that is something which we would do, and certainly you would see how vibrantly that we would take these steps in the coming year.
There is so much melodrama surrounding the acting Inspector General of Police, the position itself. The country needs to not delay the appointment of an Inspector General of Police. This vis-a-vis the role of the Constitutional Council. Speak to us about it.
Yeah, so you can see without making at least an acting appointment, the extensions were granted 3 months, weeks, hours, likewise. And finally, an acting IGP has now been appointed. But the last week you would see, prior to the pronouncement of the judgment of the Supreme Court in that fundamental right application, many concerns were raised with regard to his suitability to hold that high office in the country, IGP. And unlike other, the special police force, we look at the tri-forces, more than the tri-forces, it is the police who deals with the day-to-day life of the civilians and the civil society. They have very huge powers in terms of law. So it is the IGP who will basically exercise those powers for and on behalf of the entire police force. So therefore we have got raised concerns not once but on many occasions. And it is not only any personal issue. We have no personal issue with A, B, C or D. What we want to see to it, a proper person with unblemished track record, a suitable person to basically come into these high positions, so that there will not be an erosion of public confidence in the office of the IGP, and that is for the betterment of the country. So the Constitutional Council has not been unanimous on this appointment, of course, as far as the information that I have received, and there had been some division, but still an acting appointment has been made. Thereafter, the Supreme Court has now pronounced a judgment with regard to the acting IGP. So that is not a matter that can be simply ignored by anybody, including the executive. And therefore we, as the Bar Association, we have our Public Interest Litigation Committee, and so we are studying this judgment. We have referred, we have requested, and hopefully we will receive certain recommendations. Based on that, we will kind of make suitable recommendations, or rather make appeals to the relevant stakeholders. So as I must reiterate, it is not a question of us having any personal issues with A, B, C and D. It's a question of your future, my future, and the future of our nation.
With respect to the role of the Constitutional Council, do you think that there's an attempt being made to trivialize it? Most recently, the President said that the Constitutional Council is a part of the executive arm of governance. How do you weigh in on that?
Yeah, but of course, executive shall not try to impose any pressure on the Constitutional Council in terms of, if you look at the law and the interpretation that can be given with regard to the role and the powers of the not only the Constitutional Council, all independent the bodies. No one, legally and technically they are not supposed to kind of impose any pressure on them, and they are supposed to act independently. And we expect the members of this, not only the Constitutional Council, all the other independent bodies to act independently. If you come into the pressure of someone else, of course that shows that these members are not suitable members to hold, or rather to become, or rather to be a member of these institutions. So therefore that is not a good sign, and I would say and you must allow all these institutions to act in the manner that they are supposed to act in terms of law, independently, without being pressurized by any including the executive. So therefore I hope and they will not basically flout or rather violate the mandate that has been given by the people for and on behalf of the people. So if they flout it, certainly they will have to suffer the consequences.
My final question to you, Mr. Nawaratne, the independence of the judicial arm of government is of pivotal importance. Over the recent past specifically, we've this concept of the independence of the judiciary has been in the public domain, not in a positive light. Do you think that the BASL has a greater role to play in being proactive to ensure that the independence of the judiciary is ensured and upheld?
Of course, I would say yes, in a short and answer to be given to that important question, because in a democratic society, more than the executive or the parliament, it is the judiciary which must play the pivotal role. That is why you have check and balances in a constitution. And when it comes to the judiciary, that's why even the removal of judges of the apex courts, there is very stringent provisions have been included in the constitution itself. That is in order to maintain the independence. And that is why the contempt of court and then so many other safeguards have been introduced to the legal system, so that the judicial officers can exercise their powers and the discretion independently without being biased towards anybody. So it is very unfortunate sometimes these matters are being discussed in the public domain with regard to the independence, perhaps for good reason, no reasons, or the bad reasons. However, the Bar Association being the professional body of the legal professionals, and this is something which we always advocate, and that is one of the objectives of our constitution of the Bar Association. And certainly that is something which we will always take every possible steps to ensure the independence of the judiciary is protected. Otherwise, if there is no independence to the judiciary, then of course democracy can't survive. Any platform.
How does the future of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka look like? You spoke about innovation, you spoke about it being vibrant. Talk to us briefly about what the role of the BASL, its paradigm, will look like.
Yeah, so that, as I said, if I am to reiterate myself, there will be a paradigm shift, because we cannot kind of go through our traditional roles. And the Bar Association is to celebrate its 50 years, the Golden Jubilee, starting from 1st of January 2024. And because we were established or rather incorporated back in 1974, 1st of January, with the introduction of the law number 44 of 1973. So right along, we have always acted in order to protect the rights of the citizens. But now, looking at the latest developments in the society, and by and large in the entire world, legal professionals have better roles to play. So therefore I have to correctly say it is a pivotal role that we cannot be kind of ignored. Our duty, it's not only the duties, and we always demand for our rights, but of course we as legal professionals, more than our rights, we always look into obligations. If you look at it, legal professionals are never acted as the trade unions members. We always render our professional services for the betterment of our nation and the community as and when it is necessary and required. So taking all these matters into consideration, and the Bar Association, as I said, if I am to repeat myself once again, it will be a sort of a new era that we are looking at, because we are kind of agitating that there must be new system that must be introduced to the entire legal system, especially with regard to the court cases,
Right.
and digitalization, and that is something which you can't ignore.
Of course.
Because if you look at our lawyers, and they carry these thousands of kilos of files every day to courts. But if you go to other jurisdiction, it's just a matter of carrying your tab, and to such level, it the development has come into our the legal systems in the whole world. So these new systems have to be introduced, otherwise we will shortfall, and we will shortfall of the expectation of the people, and that is something the Bar Association will always basically fight for, though it is not sometimes we find not to the best interest of, or rather the liking of the politicians, but of course for the people that we have to do.
All right, fantastic. Mr. Kaushalya Nawaratne, President's Council, President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.